Prince William in tears. After discovering what King Charles hid for 30 years. In a shocking twist that has left the royal family reeling, Prince William's world is turned upside down as he uncovers a secret that has been buried for over 3 decades. What was King Charles hiding, and how did it break the heart of his eldest son? The truth is more explosive than anyone could have imagined, and the fallout has sent shockwaves through the palace. Stay tuned as we dive into the revelation that has Prince William in tears and threatens to change the monarchy forever. What do you think about King Charles keeping a truth hidden for 30 years? This is definitely a story you don't want to miss. If you think the royal family secrets will be shocking, leave a 1 in the comments, and if you think it's just a rumor, leave a 0. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Prince William for many years believed the stories told about his mother's final days. He carried that knowledge with him and built his emotions around it without questioning the narratives passed down to him. However, a shocking discovery completely shattered that belief, forcing him to confront an entirely different truth. It all began when Prince William accidentally discovered something in King Charles's personal documents. He wasn't looking for anything, but a carefully hidden letter suddenly surfaced as if no one was meant to know about it. What made this discovery particularly remarkable was that the letter wasn't written by anyone else. It was written by King Charles himself. The letter was written shortly after Diana's death, when emotions were still unstable and the royal family was under immense pressure. However, what the letter revealed was not the pain of loss, but control. In it, Charles issued detailed instructions to palace staff specifying that certain personal belongings of Diana's must be kept hidden and not shown to her children. Among the items kept hidden were a diary and several cassette tapes that Diana had left for William and Harry. However, neither of the brothers had ever received them, and until that moment, William didn't even know of their existence. These tapes were not just ordinary recordings, but the final messages that their mother had left specifically for her children. The discovery that these tapes had been hidden all this time was truly a huge shock for William. Those present at the palace during this moment stated that William was utterly devastated. For someone who had always strived to protect his mother's memory and honor, her finding out this truth was a powerful blow. In the end, loyalty to the king, the country, and prosperity remained at the forefront. A royal family member declared their unwavering commitment to serve, offering blessings for the king. Despite the palace facing unprecedented challenges, the sense of responsibility and belief in the future remained the guiding principles that helped them navigate through the storm. William grew up in a world where emotions had to always be controlled and appearances were valued more than true feelings. Knowing that his own father had kept his mother's final words not to protect him but to control the situation was something he could not easily overlook. The most painful part wasn't the content of the letter, but the choice behind that action. Diana spent her final months preparing for what she feared might happen. She wrote down the emotions she couldn't express in words in her diary, capturing her deepest thoughts. Along with that, she recorded tapes directly addressing her sons. These tapes weren't meant for the world, not for the media to twist or judge. They were only for the 2 boys who had lost their mother far too soon. The diary held the memories and deep emotions of Diana written by her own hand. The tapes carried her voice and truth. Some tapes contained love and regret, while others offered warnings and a candid look at life within the royal family. Diana had witnessed so much endured pains she never wanted her children to experience, but she also wanted them to understand what she had felt before she left. However, Charles made a decision at the time, believing that the tapes and diary were too risky. He feared that if they were discovered, everything would collapse. Instead of allowing Diana's children to know the truth, he chose to keep them hidden, never to mention them again. In this way, he buried a part of Diana's truth, buried her voice, thinking that it would never resurface to cause problems. But many years later, that truth returned. William held the tapes in his hands. He read the words his mother had written, heard her voice. And with every word, a deep sense of betrayal surged within him. Everything he thought he knew now began to unravel. He realized that a very personal part of his life had been taken from him not by an enemy or a stranger, but by the person he trusted most, his own father. When the time came to face his father, William wasn't prepared for a public conversation. He didn't want cameras or headlines. He just wanted answers. He asked to speak privately with Charles without staff, without royal ceremonies, just father and son. The meeting took place in a secluded room where only their voices echoed. But according to those close to the family, the impact of that meeting has not faded. It changed something between them. William entered that room with a series of questions he didn't even know he would have to face. But one thing was clear: that meeting wasn't just a conversation, it was a major turning point in the relationship between father and son. William did not appear as the heir or a royal figure. He came as a son holding on to the pain that had been buried for far too long. What he found in that letter, along with the diary and tapes, ripped open wounds he thought had healed. He didn't speak, didn't argue. He simply laid the truth on the table and waited. What matters now is not what Charles will do next, but what he has already done. Diana's final words were stolen from her sons, and now William must face the reality of that loss once again. The fragments of his mother's final thoughts are finally with him. But the years that passed without them can never be reclaimed. This is not just a discovery. It's a turning point in William's life. Now he carries not only the memories of his mother, but also her final truth. A truth that was hidden, buried, and nearly forgotten. And from that day on, nothing between father and son could ever return to the way it was. A confrontation from the inside out. Charles could never have imagined that William would confront him in such a way. His son's words reached deep into the hidden pains within him. For a moment, Charles stiffened his face, changing his eyes, welling with tears. It seemed as though he might collapse entirely. After a long silence, he began to explain his reasons. He said he had done it to protect William from the pain his mother had endured. However, those words did little to ease his son's pain. On the contrary, it only made things worse. William didn't see it as an act of protection. To him, it was control. Decisions were made behind his back, decisions that forced him to live in the dark instead of being given the chance to hear his mother's final thoughts. As a boy, grieving and confused, he needed something to hold on to, but now, as an adult, that feeling hadn't changed. He felt as though he had been excluded from something deeply personal, and that feeling cut deep within him. The room, already heavy with tension, grew even more oppressive. What had started as a serious conversation quickly escalated into a fiery argument. Voices grew louder, emotions surged. William wanted to get to the heart of the matter. He demanded answers, needing to know who else had been involved in this decision. He wanted to know the names of those who had helped keep the tapes and diary from him. He demanded honesty, but Charles only replied that everything had become too complicated. That answer only made William feel more sorrowful. Those present in the room could sense a distinct shift, not because of the raised voices, but because the powerful emotions that had been buried for so many years were now being unleashed. One assistant later described that moment as something that had built up over a long period of time. It wasn't just about a few things being kept hidden, but about something much deeper, the pain that had never been confronted, the emotions that had never been expressed, and the trust that had never been properly built. William could no longer bear it. He left. His eyes were red, his fists clenched. He didn't speak to anyone for hours, not even Kate. That night, he stayed in his private office with the diary and the tapes. He remained there until the sun rose. Something had been stirred within him. It wasn't just anger towards Charles, but a sense of confusion and pain he had carried for years without even realizing it. Throughout his life, William had played the role that was expected of him. He always stood firm, followed the rules, and did what was asked, without asking too many questions. He had protected his mother's image, doing his best to honor her memory. But now everything had changed. He discovered that the very system he had been safeguarding all these years had taken away the one thing he needed most, his mother's voice. And what happened afterward wasn't just sorrow. It changed everything. After that confrontation, nothing was the same for William. His perspective on his father changed. His feelings toward the monarchy did as well. What he had once accepted without question was now seen in an entirely different light. That moment had opened a wound that had never truly healed. It made him question just how much his life had been shaped by decisions made behind his back. For him, the pain was not just about the past, but also about its meaning for the future. On the outside, people still saw the same prince, but those close to him noticed the difference. He became distant, speaking less, withdrawing from his daily duties. He stopped attending some events. He didn't want to wear a face that no longer matched what he felt inside. He needed time to understand what had happened. He needed space to feel the pain and work through it. Those around him said he seemed heavy, as if memories had just flooded back with overwhelming force. It was like a funeral that had just taken place. But this time, it wasn't just sadness. There was also anger. There was a sense of betrayal that made him wonder why the truth had been kept from him for so long. He had spent years thinking he knew everything he needed to know. But now he had to rebuild the story of his mother's final days from the fragments. He stopped performing some official duties. He asked for more time away from the spotlight. His focus now turned inward. William wanted to examine everything carefully. He wanted to understand why the things that had been hidden from him, why they were kept as secrets. It wasn't just about the past anymore. It was about the trust that had been broken, the truth buried, and the love for a mother set aside in favor of duty. These emotions were a deep sadness creeping into every corner of his soul. Although he had spent many years building a strong image for the world, now he had to face what he had long avoided. The truth had come to him, and it refused to be ignored. This wasn't just a difficult moment, it was a turning point. From that moment on, everything changed. The way he viewed the crown, how he saw his father, and how he preserved his mother's memory all changed. In that deep emotional struggle, William began to walk down a different path. This path was not shaped by what others wanted from him, but by what he needed to heal. Prince William was falling apart inside. When Prince William began reviewing the private records his father had kept hidden for so many years, he never expected them to change the way he viewed his past so profoundly. Every time he opened a folder or listened to a tape that had been concealed, The truth started to emerge in ways he was unprepared for. If you find this story surprising and intriguing, don't forget to hit like and share the video with your friends. Can you imagine how William must have felt as these secrets were slowly revealed? Leave your thoughts about this truth in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to the channel to catch more dramatic revelations from the royal family. This wasn't just a list of events or old documents. What he discovered felt like a doorway into his mother's pain presented with absolute honesty. Each part he read or listened to made the picture clearer but also much heavier. These were the tapes and personal diaries of Diana. In them, she spoke candidly about her life in the royal world. There was no attempt to soften her words. She recorded her true feelings of being trapped in a failing marriage, surrounded by people who merely watched but never helped. She spoke of betrayal, of being pushed aside, of feeling lonely, even though she was constantly followed by cameras. One of the most striking parts of the tapes and diaries was the moment Diana realized that Prince Charles had never truly let go of Camilla. That realization tore something inside her. She tried to hold on to be strong for her children and her role, but the pain of being treated as a facade for someone else's true love never went away. She poured it all out into those tapes. It wasn't just the pain of her marriage, but also the deep concern Diana had for William and Harry. She feared that her sons would grow up within the same system that had disappointed her. She worried that they would be shaped by the crown before ever having the chance to discover who they truly were. Diana didn't want her children to be controlled to become symbols while their true selves were suppressed. All of these worries and emotions had been kept from William for decades. These feelings were locked away, concealed by order, and protected by those who had served the crown for generations. After Diana's death, Prince Charles accidentally found her tapes and diaries. He listened, read them, and then made a decision. Charles ordered that everything be kept away from the public and, more importantly, kept away from his sons. He instructed his most trusted aides not to release the tapes or the diaries and to ignore the part of Diana's will that mentioned them. According to those close to him, Charles explained that sharing these materials would only make matters worse. At that time, the royal family was facing a powerful wave of public backlash. People were grieving Diana with such intensity that she was almost untouchable in their minds. The monarchy at that moment appeared weak and vulnerable. Charles believed that revealing these painful truths would only make everything worse. He thought he was protecting the family and saving the institution from complete collapse. However, in doing so, he set aside something more important: his son's right to hear his mother's final thoughts. He prevented William and Harry from knowing the truth that could help them heal. While Charles may have thought he was stopping further damage, many now believe that he caused even more pain, and this damage isn't felt equally by everyone. The most vulnerable, those with the fewest resources, are the ones who bear the greatest consequences. Those who understand what happened believe that Charles was worried the tapes could drive his sons even further away. He feared that if they heard Diana's true emotions, how she struggled, how she was treated, they might turn their backs on everything he had been trying to protect. They might refuse the throne. However, by keeping Diana's voice hidden for so long, Charles inadvertently made the outcome he feared more likely. Now, William stood in a completely different position. The truth he discovered had changed everything, and he was no longer the heir that everyone had believed him to be. The documents were now in William's hands. He had listened to his mother's voice read her words and confronted the deep emotions they carried. No more mysteries. The truth was clear, and with that truth came a heavy burden. Everything Diana had said, everything she had hoped her sons would one day understand, was now a reality for him. William could no longer go back to how things were. He could not pretend that he didn't know anymore. He couldn't undo what he had discovered. What he did next would determine how this story would unfold. The palace had always preferred to keep things internal, handling issues without bringing them into the public eye. But now, William held something that could never be kept hidden forever. His mother had left behind messages hoping that one day her sons would find strength in the truth. The decision now rested with him. The same voice that had once tried to guide him throughout his childhood now called to him through the words she had left. These tapes weren't meant to hurt, but to explain, protect, and clarify what she had endured. If William decides to let the world hear them, everything could change. His mother's voice, once pushed aside, could rise above the traditions that tried to bury it. And if that happens, the royal family would never be the same again. Diana's heartbreaking message, once shared, would be a turning point. When Prince William finally took out his mother's diary, he didn't just hold on to a few pages from the past. He had kept something much heavier. The familiar handwriting filled with emotion seemed to reach straight into his chest. Each word felt deeply personal, as if she had written it knowing that one day he would read it. The diary was not just pages of paper, it was a part of Diana, and now that part belonged to William to read and carry with him. Diana believed her sons could lose themselves in that world, just as she had felt herself drifting away in it. Page after page, Diana poured out everything she felt. It wasn't just thoughts about life under the public eye, but also the pain she hid behind the photos and the exterior. She wrote about the pressure, the isolation, and the moments when she felt pushed away even by those closest to her. Diana didn't hold back. She lived through the moments that slowly drained her. Now those moments came alive again on the pages she left behind. But her words were not just for looking back at the past. They were also for looking forward. She wrote about her sons, about the eternal love she had for William and Harry. That love would never fade. Diana worried about the future her sons would have to face. She feared that the same system that had made her feel trapped would one day reach out and pull her children in. She recalled small moments with William, moments that seemed insignificant at the time, but clearly remained in her memory. William had once tried to comfort her when he was young, his little arms wrapping around her when she was sad. Diana had clung to those memories, and now through the diary she was passing them on to him. Reading those words as a grown man left William deeply shaken. The emotions that had been suppressed for so many years now flooded back, intense and painful. For a long time, he stayed in his private room reading each line of the diary. He hardly said anything except to Kate, who saw the deep impact it had on him. The diary didn't just bring memories back, it made everything real again. His mother's voice, her presence, her love, all of it flooded back. And along with it came a stronger, clearer sense of purpose. Diana wrote these pages not just to share her emotions, but to leave behind a piece of the truth. It was a truth that had never made its way into press releases or official biographies. It was raw, it was painful, but it was her truth, and now William had to decide what to do with it. As the full weight of Diana's words began to bear down on him, Another storm started brewing inside the palace. Whispers quickly spread throughout the halls. People began to talk, and soon panic set in. It was said that William had not only found the diary, but also a recording of Diana. These recordings had always been a source of concern behind closed doors. As the news spread, emergency teams began holding late-night meetings. The phone lines were constantly busy. Public relations teams were instructed to be on standby at all times. They acted swiftly with brief and direct instructions. Treat this as a private family matter. Do not speak to the press. Do not share any details, and above all, do not let it turn into a public scandal. They had worked for years to rebuild the royal family's image after Diana's death. They feared that these personal words and recordings could shake everything once again. Some officials even pushed for the relocation or concealment of the documents, but William remained determined. These weren't just pieces of paper or tapes. They belonged to his mother. They held her thoughts, emotions, and final messages. He would not let them be taken from him, not this time, not again. As the palace tried to control the situation, something unexpected began to surface. It was not what they had anticipated. Far beyond the palace walls, another figure sensed this shift. Harry, who had always felt that the story he had been told was never fully the truth, began to notice the difference. His relationship with the family had changed in recent years, but this new development only deepened that divide. Harry had always believed that the truth about their mother had been hidden from them for a long time. And now, as William held the diary and the recordings, he felt that those hidden pieces were slowly being revealed. Diana's voice echoed once again, and it was something that could not be silenced. Inside the palace, they realized that this could develop into something much bigger than they had imagined. This wasn't just about William's grief or Harry's doubts. It was about what Diana had left behind and what her children could do with that legacy. Her words had always carried weight, and now they had found new life in the hands of her children. Efforts to bury the story had failed. Too many people had started to uncover it, and the more they tried to conceal it, the more attention they drew. William had no intention of letting go of what he had found. The diary had changed him. It stirred something that had lain dormant for years. Now the palace had to face the reality that the truth about Diana could no longer be buried. It had found its way back, and with it the past was no longer left behind. It stood right before them, ready to shape what would happen next. When William finally uncovered the full truth about his mother's last wishes, something deep within him shifted. He replayed the recordings and read her diary entries over and over again. Every word carried weight. It wasn't just old paper or forgotten tapes. It was Diana speaking to him after all these years. The details in the diary were raw, authentic, and impossible to ignore. As he sat with all of it, a thought began to form in his mind about his younger brother. Harry, who had always felt something was being kept from them, had hinted in interviews that there were secrets they had never been told. He spoke about how their mother's death had hurt him deeply and how the family had never helped him work through it. William had once dismissed it, thinking that perhaps Harry was just reacting emotionally. But now, what he read and heard made everything clearer. The pieces of the past that Harry had long sensed were now slowly falling into place. But now, as he sat listening to Diana's own words, William began to wonder if Harry had always sensed something was missing. After days of holding back, he decided to pick up the phone. The two brothers hadn't had a proper conversation in months, not since things had become tense and distant. But this time, something was different. William felt the need to reach out. It wasn't a long conversation, but it marked a significant shift. The call ended with William telling Harry that there was something he needed to show him, something their mother had left behind. This wasn't just about the past, but about what was still unresolved between them. It felt as though Diana's words could do what nothing else had been able to do in many years. They could bring the two brothers back together, even though they had been apart for so long. Life is so precious. William thought, I don't know how much longer my father has left. But even as that faint hope began to grow, another feeling pushed him forward: pain. Because what was in those tapes wasn't just about family love, it was about betrayal, lies, and fear. The truth that Diana left behind was not easy to face, especially for those who had tried to bury her voice. But in those tapes, one name stood out more than any other in her private thoughts: Camilla. Diana spoke freely without restraint. She explained how Charles's affair had hurt her deeply. Diana didn't just feel betrayed as a wife, but also sidelined as a mother trying to protect her sons from the noise and shame that came with the royal scandal. Everyone remembers that moment in her famous interview when she said her marriage felt suffocating. But those tapes went beyond anything she had publicly shared. Diana was open about her fear that one day Camilla would take over and shape the royal family in a different direction, one where Diana would be completely pushed out of the story. Diana understood how public opinion could change, and she feared that one day people would forget who she was, what she stood for, and everything she had gone through. Looking around now, William can see his mother's fear starting to become a reality. Since Charles ascended the throne and Camilla stepped into the role of queen, his mother's name has gradually faded away. She is no longer mentioned in speeches, no longer appears in official photos, and memories of her are slowly fading from major palace events. It's not just a historical shift, it's personal. The gradual erasure of his mother makes William feel deeply hurt. This isn't just about family, it's about what Diana built and sacrificed. Her presence in royal history is being obscured, and this causes an irreparable pain for William. William has found his mother's final thoughts that had been hidden for years. Now he must face the reality that the woman who caused Diana so much pain has gained the most by burying those thoughts. Camilla's position in the royal family has always been questioned, but with Diana's private voice now echoing, everything could change. Throughout this time, William hasn't faced it alone. Kate has stood by him. She has supported him not just as a loyal wife, but with purpose. Kate understands how difficult this is for him, and she hasn't walked away. She helps him stay strong as the weight of what he has found begins to pull him down. Kate has always been strong, but now she is more than that. She is the one who reminds him of what matters. She sits by his side as he reads Diana's diary, sitting next to him as he listens to the recordings. She doesn't say much. She doesn't need to. Her presence gives him something solid to lean on. She brings him tea and gently holds his hand. She reminds him that he's not alone, but inside something else is growing within her. It's hard to ignore. Kate believes that William should have received those tapes a long time ago. She supports him now not for the sake of drama or attention, but because the truth has been hidden for far too long. However, that support comes at a price. Her feelings toward Camilla, once suppressed, begin to surface. One time, not long after when Camilla tried to speak with her, Kate simply smiled and turned away. Though small, the gesture left a lasting impression. The mood in the room shifted. The distance between them grew sharper. Now, with Diana's voice returning, the family stands at a new crossroads. William and Kate are well aware of the risks. They can stay silent and continue the tradition, or they can open up and face the storm that's about to hit. Whichever path they choose, it will change everything. But after all they've seen and heard, the road ahead is no longer simple. What Diana left behind is now in their hands, and with it comes the power to shape what comes next, including the public's reaction. The palace had spent years trying to keep this hidden, but once a small leak began to spread, everything changed. At first, it was just a small reminder shared by someone close to the royal family. A rumor spread through the press hinting that Prince William had accidentally discovered something that had been hidden for a long time. It wasn't just an old letter or a forgotten document. It was something personal, emotional, and deeply connected to his mother's final will. As more details were revealed, the picture became clearer. A diary was found, followed by recordings, and then everything led to a tense moment between William and his father Charles. People began talking everywhere. The internet lit up with voices demanding answers. Diana's name flooded social media once again, not just with old photos or fond memories, but with genuine anger and questions about the things that had been hidden from her sons. A phrase began to spread across posts and headlines. People didn't just want to remember Diana, they wanted her to be heard. This time, their anger wasn't just about the past or the tabloids that had caused harm. This time, the blame shifted toward the monarchy itself. Readers began to question whether Charles had concealed the truth to protect the royal image or simply to protect himself. They looked at Camilla and wondered if her rise had come at the cost of another woman's truth. And worst of all, they wondered if William had been kept in the dark for 30 years, while those around him knew everything. Support for William grew rapidly. People stood by him saying that he had grown into the kind of man his mother would be proud of. Royal experts noticed something strange in the palace's response. No words were spoken, no official statements were made. And that silence protected no one. It only fueled the public's anger. The longer the palace stayed silent, the larger Diana's presence became. The public wanted to hear what was in those recordings. They wanted to know what was written in her own hand. And suddenly, William found himself caught in the middle. He was always expected to carry the crown, but now the very system he was meant to protect is the one that has silenced his mother's voice. And now, with the truth exposed, he must choose which path to take. Outside the palace, the tension continues to rise. Inside, something has changed. It's no longer just about the documents or recordings. It's about William himself. He has stopped mourning quietly. He's begun to think about what he needs to do next. According to those who work closely with him, he is carefully weighing his options. He's not rushing into anything, but he is no longer standing still. For months, Prince William has emphasized the importance of truth and transparency, especially when it comes to raising his children. But now those beliefs have evolved into something stronger. They are turning into tangible actions. Some close to the palace have indicated that he may release parts of the diary or recordings not to attack anyone, not to shame his father, but to finally allow Diana's own words to be heard. Still, no matter what his decision may be, the tension within the royal family has reached its breaking point. Older members of the royal family worry that such an action could divide the monarchy, creating a rift between the generation clinging to the past and those wanting something new. But for William, it seems he is no longer focused on politics. This has become personal for him. It's about what his mother left behind. Diana was once silenced, her truth buried, her emotions dismissed. Now her son has the power to bring her voice back. The public stands with him. They want to see him rise not only as a future king, but also as a protector of the values his mother once championed. Meanwhile, the royal institution watches with anxiety. They know that the next move could reshape everything. The boy who once walked behind Diana's coffin is now standing at the front, ready to lead. He is not only standing up for the honor of his family, but also for Diana, and what he chooses to do next could break decades of control. Everything from this point forward will depend on this moment. With the nation watching and history waiting to be rewritten, William's actions could either preserve the monarchy as it has always been, or open the door to something entirely new. The truth is no longer hidden. It has begun to surface. Now it's just a matter of how far William will go to bring the whole story to light. Even after 3 decades, Diana's story has not faded. In fact, her voice now resonates louder than ever within the royal family. Though she has been gone for many years, the things she left behind, her thoughts, fears, hopes, are gradually rising again. Hidden for so long, these truths are beginning to move through the very rooms she once entered, the rooms she never fully trusted. At the heart of this moment is her eldest son, Prince William. He was once just a boy holding his mother's hand. Now he is a grown man standing at a decision that could change everything for the royal family. The monarchy has weathered many storms over the years. Shocking scandals filled the headlines, broken marriages, painful divorces, and the loss of family members have failed to break it. Even when the royal family had to step back from public life, the crown maintained its position. But this time, the situation has changed. This time, the issue doesn't come from the outside. It's not from media criticism, not from another country or a rebellious voice seeking to destroy. This time, the issue comes from within the family itself. It touches something deeper, something raw and personal. Family, a mother, a son, and a truth that has been pushed aside for too long. Now Prince William must face what others have tried to ignore. The decision he must make is incredibly weighty. Whatever path he chooses, it will leave an indelible mark. He could choose silence, letting everything continue as it is. This would protect the structure of the monarchy, along with a system that once tried to keep Diana in her place. But he could also choose to speak out. William could make his mother's words public, even though doing so could shake the royal walls that have stood for centuries. Those close to him understand the level of threat this decision poses. Palace insiders say this is one of the hardest moments of William's life. He knows exactly what his mother hoped for. Diana always longed for honesty and fairness, especially when it came to her sons. Now that choice lies in William's hands. If he steps forward, it will not only affect him but also impact the royal family. This will reach his father, King Charles, who is already facing his own battles. Charles is being pulled in different directions. On one hand, he must maintain his role as king. On the other, there are the memories of his past, the pains that still linger. Camilla, now queen, cannot escape this wave of change. Her public image has stabilized over the years, but the return of Diana's voice has created a new wave. Memories of the past have been stirred and people are looking back. Public opinion is shifting. Prince William, now fully aware of the importance of this moment, has grown up under the pressure of family expectations, trained to follow rules and step in the footsteps of those before him. However, now he faces a challenge that the family has never had to confront. He must face the truth about his mother's life and what happened to her. He has discovered something real, a truth that was purposefully buried. Now he must decide what to do with it. The choice he makes will not only shape his legacy, but could also transform the future of the monarchy. As these hidden pieces are revealed, the public's attention grows even stronger. They're not just curious about the events, but they're beginning to pay attention to the emotions hidden within them. Diana is no longer a distant figure from the past. Her words and actions now carry a fresh weight, an influence that no one in the royal family can ignore. Prince William, now fully aware of the importance of this moment, has grown up under the pressure of family expectations, trained to follow rules and step in the footsteps of those before him. However, now he faces a challenge that the family has never had to confront. He must face the truth about his mother's life and what happened to her. He has discovered something real, a truth that was purposefully buried. Now he must decide what to do with it. Ignoring the truth would be easier if he kept it silent, protecting what has existed and continued living as if nothing had happened. However, William realizes that everything has changed. The moment he found those letters, tapes, and his mother's words, nothing is the same anymore. He can't ignore them. He can't pretend they don't matter. And deep down, he knows exactly what must be done. If he chooses to make Diana's truth public, the monarchy may never be the same again. The public will view the royal family in an entirely new light. Some will feel anger, while others will feel sorrow. But one thing is certain: things will never go back to the way they were. The wounds that have been buried for so long will be exposed. And when that happens, the healing process may begin, though it will not be easy. Diana still lives on in the memories of everyone. Her words are not just from the past, but now they are powerfully returning. If William allows that voice to be heard, something new might be born from those cracks. A different strength could rise, something that the old ways can no longer provide. The royal family will have to face a new chapter, one no longer hidden behind titles and rules, but one that seeks the truth no matter how difficult. So what do you think? Was King Charles' motive in keeping his son in the dark justified? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story shocked you, don't forget to hit like, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more shocking royal secrets. We'll always bring you the most fascinating and fresh stories about the royal family. Stay tuned for more revelations. Thank you for watching.